Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. So if you're new here, hi, I'm Hannah and thank you for joining me. Today we're going to do some more sewing. We've got quite a big project that I'm very excited about. But before I get started, I'm going to skip to a little clip where I show you a little bit more about my inspiration and tell you about what we're going to be making. One thing I really wanted to do was show you sort of where I keep my inspiration and how I plan an outfit. So I'm not an artistic person. A lot of it is done in my head, and then I like to put things down in one place where I can refer back to them and kind of remember what my idea was and any details or any styling ideas, etc. So this is my Christmas party outfit Pinterest board. On here you'll see lots of things, all sort of different but of a similar sort of like glam theme and vibe. So my main inspiration for this outfit is this picture here. So I was really inspired to create a two-piece. I wanted a top and a skirt that could be worn together to create something really glam, but could also be really wearable separately. So I know that the satin skirts are really great to wear with jumpers and boots, and that's very much a vibe that I'd like to be wearing this autumn, winter. And a glam top can always be worn for like nice dinners, etc., with a pair of jeans, heels, boots, whatever. So this was where my idea was from. Then we were looking at fabrics wise. I decided to go with a polyester Duchess satin, which I'll show you in a second, and that's purely because it was left over from another make. So I love the fabric. It's navy blue, it's a really beautiful quality and shine to it. I thought it'd be great for this, for a really lovely glam outfit. I've also been loving the bias skirts, and so a satin really related well to that. So considering I had one in my fabric store, I thought I would use it. So as far as the skirt, it was pretty straightforward. I'm aiming for something that's quite fitted and slinky. There's a few different like options of satin skirt on this Pinterest board, but my favourite is the more fitted one. As far as the tops, I was playing around with ideas. The first idea was to do feathers, which is really well shown in this picture, which is a dress from Club London. But I did buy some feathers to do this exact sort of top with the feathers round at the top of the garment. But I couldn't get feathers that were big and like fluffy enough and had enough drama to them for a price that I was happy with. Feathers are very expensive. I assumed you'd be able to get some like faux feathers that felt nice, but it very much seemed like you buy the real thing or nothing. So this kind of got parked to one side for the time being, and we looked at doing something else. Okay. So the other feather outfit that I loved was this top with a feather fringe to create like that 1920s style. Again, I just couldn't afford the feathers, couldn't justify the price, so we moved on to some different ideas. The idea that I've decided to go with is crop tops are great on me. That's what I'm most comfortable in. So I wanted to stick with a crop top. I wanted something that fit really nicely, played around with the idea of corsets and stuff, but was inspired by the Reformation tops. So this is one here. They fit really nicely. I'll show you on their website in a minute because you can see the back and how it's structured. But this one also inspired me because I thought the bow sleeves would be really cool. So a big dramatic bow sleeve in the satin fabric I thought would just look really glam, would give the top something a little bit special, and then it could be quite fitted everywhere else, and I thought this would pair really nicely with jeans. It's not too glam, but it's a nice top for when you need a jeans and a nice top sort of outfit for a meal or a date, etc. So that is my thinking. As far as the Reformation tops, they are all structured very similar, with this sort of shearing detail on the back, which I thought was a great idea. It stopped me from having a corset and like uncomfortable boning in there, but yet still pulls you in really nicely and gives a beautiful fit. I've not done shearing before, but it's definitely what I'm going to try on this top. Also, just to note the prices, so Reformation, because of the fit and what the brand's known for, is a higher price point. So this is marked at £155. Yes, it's real silk, but if we go to a velvet one, it's still £145. So very, very similar prices, and that's sort of where their price point is. To carry on with sort of looking at prices and what it would cost to buy this sort of outfit, also it's not like you couldn't buy a two-piece, but to buy the separates, the skirt, this one was really similar to what I want to achieve, and this is at £99. So this is from Whistles, it's long, it's ankle length, it's navy blue, fits really beautifully. I think if we go down a little bit, you can see it's got a little invisible zip in the side. Really lovely skirt, and it comes in around £99. As far as the making's concerned, this is the fabric that I have. So I have leftovers of this fabric, so I haven't needed to purchase it for this project. But it's £18 a metre, and I've probably got 2.5 metres to play with, something like that. So that comes in at £50. On top of that, you'd have a pattern cost, which the pattern I'm using for the skirt is £20. I haven't chosen a pattern for the top yet, but it's coming. So yeah, you're still looking at considerably less than what a top and skirt that didn't match would cost. Okay, so we're going to start with the skirt. And the first thing I'm going to do is take my measurements. I'll show you how I'm going to do it on here, but it goes without saying, I'm obviously not going to take my measurements with a jumper and jeans on, but I thought I'd show you sort of where you take them and what I'm taking. So the first measurement is going to be for the waist. So that is around the smallest part of your waist there. So I think normally a pattern's in inches, but I do need to check this actually. But you take your waist measurement there and then record it. This pattern's both in inches and centimetres, so it doesn't actually matter which one you take. I always work in inches because that tends to be standard. The next measurement is for your hips, so that wants to be the widest part around your hips and your bum. I did look this up and it's either 6 or 8 inches below from the belly button. I'll pop that on screen. But I always just go from what the widest part is and take that measurement there. Probably ought to take the phone out the back pocket. So I take mine around there and then record that measurement. So the only other measurement I'm going to take for the skirt, you've got your waist, so you know how small you're going up top. You've got your hips, so you know what fabric you need to give for there. And then I'm going to look at the length. So if you've watched my channel for a little while, you'll know that I never like to do patterns straightforward and exactly to the pattern. So there are some changes that are going to be made, quite a lot actually. But one of them is definitely the length. So I want something high-waisted and I want something that comes down to probably sort of just above the ankle, quite a long midi length, and I'm quite tall, so that is quite a lot of fabric. So I'm going to take that measurement now. Easier if you've got another person to take it with you, but if not, drop the tape measure to sort of where you want the skirt to fall and then find your waist and take that measurement there. Okay, so I've taken my measurements. I came out as between a size 6 and a size 8. I think the waist was size 6 and the hips were a size 8. I wanted to say, don't panic if you're over 2 sizes, 3 sizes. It doesn't matter, we can sort it all out. Like, it's not stressful, it's not difficult. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to cut out the pattern pieces. So I'm going to cut everything out to a size 8 as that's my bigger size, and then we'll sort out adjusting the pattern once it's all cut. Also, just a quick note while I remember, there's 2 options for this pattern. One option has a fixed waist and an invisible zip, and the other option has an elasticated waist. I'm going with the fixed waist and invisible zip, but there's option A, option B, cut out the pattern pieces accordingly. This is looking like quite a nice simple pattern, which very happy about. So we've got the skirt, which I need to trace so that this is sort of a centre line, so it needs to be like double-sided, and that's for the front and back, exactly the same. Then we've got a couple of pieces I'm assuming are for the waistband. So we've got a long piece there and a curved piece there. And then we've got a piece something to do with the zip. So we'll figure all of it out as we go along. But the first thing I'm thinking of doing is elongating this skirt. So the pattern piece says, here if you can read that, it says shorten or lengthen from the hem. But I want to lengthen this quite a lot. And if you look at the pattern, it's very like triangular shape, comes out more and more and more towards the bottom. So if I elongate it from there, it means it's going to be really wide at the bottom. So what I'd normally do with a pattern, normally they'd have their shorten or lengthen mark sort of like halfway through. You'd cut it, you'd fill in the pattern, and then you'd join the edge nicely. So I think I'm still going to do that for this pattern. If it's wrong, I'll let you know before you go and make the same mistakes that I do. But that's my inkling, is I'm going to lengthen it down the middle of the skirt. And then I can still have something quite slim and figure hugging, and I've not got this massive flare at the bottom. This is what we're left with. Does it look like a mess? Absolutely. But it's absolutely fine. So what I've done is I've cut it, I've filled in the gap to the length that we want, and then this edge I've just added a little bit of baking parchment again and taken this line straight out. So we've got a little bit more of a flare here, but nowhere near as much as if we were adding all the extra length and fullness at the bottom. So yeah, that's what we've got, and then the next thing that we need to do is basically double it in size. I don't know whether I can just fold the fabric, have that on the fold line and do it that way, or whether I need to double it in size. We will see. Baking parchment's not the easiest because it doesn't stick very well, so this is a very, very fragile pattern piece. I might try some sellotape if I've got any in and see whether that holds it a bit better. But I don't know what else I've got that's big enough to cut the second side out. Keep meaning to get the wrapping paper out of the loft because that will work quite well. But I haven't got that to hand right now, so we'll see on that one and I'll let you know what I decide. So the executive decision has been to leave it as one like half piece. I have folded the fabric down on the bias and then lined up this centerpiece with that, so hopefully that will be absolutely fine. I did sellotape the baking parchment down and it did hold a lot better, so hopefully that will be fine. I'm going to cut two pieces out in this fabric, which is the Duchess Satin, and then I'm going to cut two pieces out in that blue lining fabric over there. Okay, so the pattern pieces are cut. They took a little while to cut, I have to say, and now I've just had a flick through the instruction book. So this is from more of like an individual pattern company, not a company that I've used before, but the instruction book is a lot easier to understand than say the Style Arc ones. There are plenty of photographs and pictures, plenty of instructions. I'll show you another page. There you go. So if you're following this, it's quite easy to follow and should be fairly straightforward. I am going to go off-piste a little bit first. The first thing it says to do is fit the invisible zip. However, we know that we're not going to have to alter it a little bit and bring it in a lot at the waist. So to fit the invisible zip, it stops you from altering that side of the waist, and then it means that you'd get a bit of a wonky looking skirt. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to attach the skirt at the sides, pin where the zip wants to go and sort of fit it to me, bring it in as much as I want to at this point, and then we can fit the invisible zip when we know sort of where it wants to be sitting and how much we're bringing it in. The other thing I'm going to quickly say is that I'm not going to do anything with my raw edges yet. I haven't got the overlocker here today, but I have asked for it, so hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to zip down the seams and overlock them. Okay, so we've popped it on and this is what we're looking at. So personally I want to take this in a lot, but I know that different people like different heights, Low-waisted is very much in fashion, but it's not something I feel comfortable with. I like everything to sit a lot higher up on my waist just because of my figure and how I feel confident. It's also got a lovely like float at the moment. For the style that I want something a lot more fitted, so I am going to take quite a lot of that fullness out. But again, it's down to what you fancy and what style you like. I've seen some of the bias skirts in a much fuller style and they do look beautiful. It's just the vision that I have is for something a lot more slim fitting. So I'm going to pin away and see sort of where we get to, how it's sitting, and then go and take it in a little bit more. Okay, so we're on the second time round of fitting this now. It fits much better at the top, but it's still quite swishy around the bottom. So I'm going to try and make it a lot more fitted, although I am still very, very conscious of I've still got to be able to sit down in this. But it is cut on the bias, so it should have some stretch in it. I'm not going to have it like pulled tight, but I would like a little bit more shape around my legs and then coming out at the bottom. I should have shown you on my Pinterest what my inspo was, and the white skirt that was on there is sort of what I'm looking at and aiming for. So I'm going to keep going, keep iterating this until I'm happy with what I've got, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so we're getting there with the fit of this, but I have to say it's a little bit like square at the moment. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not sure how much of it is because it's sticking to me because it's not got any lining, or whether it needs some more shaping around here. But what I think I'm going to do first is I'm going to pop the invisible zip in, then I can zip it up properly. We've got the odd bulge that needs sorting out down the sides as well. We'll give it a good iron, and then we'll see whether we want to adjust the fit a little bit more. I thought this would be really easy to fit, but it's quite difficult to work out exactly how it wants to look and where you want to take it in. So I'm going to pop the invisible zip in next, since we've got the top part of the skirt fitting quite nicely now. So there's a couple of prep things that I've done first. You might have noticed when I was fitting the skirt that I had this interfacing on. This was because initially I thought, oh, I'll fit the invisible zip first, before then deciding that the fitting needed doing before that was fitted. So I've moved this in a little bit, but this is basically just to strengthen the fabric and stop it from stretching out of place and going all bobbly when you fit the zip. So I fitted that on both sides on the wrong side of the fabric, and then what I've done is I've just ironed the seam so that it's in line, and that just shows me where I'm stitching for the invisible zip, so it's not got any kinks or notches down here. It's going to be really quite difficult to show you how to put the invisible zip in. I've covered it before in a couple of videos, but I'll do my best to show you now. So what we've got is we've got the invisible zip. An invisible zip means that the teeth are behind rather than sat on top. So we've got this sat the right way around and we've got it undone. I've also opened out where I've ironed across, so we've got the raw seams there. Where I've got the folded line is where my stitching wants to be. We'll focus on one side first. So this is the zip the right way up, and to attach it, what we actually do is we flip the side we're attaching and attach it with the teeth upwards. So I'll pin down this side. The teeth, basically, they're folded over, so in order to get your stitching really, really close, what you can do is you can roll them outwards and stitch sort of under that side. I know I'm not explaining this very well, but I'll pin it and I'll show you as best as I can what I mean. So where I've pinned is where I'll stitch, and it's just on the inside of the teeth here, and then once it's stitched, the zip folds that way around, and then the fabric covers the zipper. Okay, so that is my invisible zip. As I say, it's not perfectly discreet, but it's like more than discreet enough for me. It's going under the arm. I don't think we'll have any issues with that being visible. Okay then guys, I wanted to come back on and show you where I've got to. Things aren't going well. Sometimes things go well, sometimes things really don't, and this is one of the days where they really don't. So I put the zip in, I had it nice and fitted, and what's happened is the fabric has stretched out of place and pulled, and trying to work out exactly where this has happened and exactly why this has happened is quite difficult. But I haven't got any more solutions or fixes to try, so what we're going to do is we're going to leave this here today. I'm going to come back to you tomorrow and try on the top, and then we'll think up a plan and we'll have a look on the skirt. I've not given up, we're definitely still going to aim for a two-piece for the Christmas party, and I've got fabric left. I can use this fabric for the top and then I can recut for the skirt or whatever we do on the bottom half. But I did want to show you that I might come on here and show you all how to sew, but things don't always go perfectly, and that is fine. So we're going to leave it here today and I'll come back to you tomorrow. Good morning guys, so it's a fresh day, new start, new plan. I went away last night and did a lot of thinking about what went wrong, what the plan is, what we're going to do going forward. I haven't given up on this skirt and top combo, we've just had a rethink. So I've spent the morning sort of recutting the fabric and I have overlocked it, and I'll show you what we're aiming for. Okay, so this is where you have to excuse my drawing because I cannot draw. I'm not artistic in any way. But basically, I'm thinking for the skirt, we're going to do a little wraparound. I've made it slightly longer, and then I'm going to do some little cover buttons going down the front. Keep it quite dainty, quite feminine, quite flowy. I think the skirt yesterday didn't work for probably two reasons. The first one being, I think trying to get that sort of like really feminine hourglass shape out of the style of skirt and the fabrics I was using was just unrealistic. I don't think that, even with it cut on the bias, I don't think I would have achieved what I wanted to achieve from that. And then the second thing was the handling of the fabric. Did it stretch out of place? Absolutely. I had more issues when I put the zip in because obviously the zip's sturdy. Fabric stretched below it and round it. So I think those were the main issues. And then when I was rethinking, is it possible to put a zip in this fabric? Absolutely. I managed to put an invisible zip in Alex's prom dress, which was exactly the same fabric. But I think if something's not going well, there's no harm in making it a bit easier or having a rethink. And I actually think this new plan will look a lot more stylish, a lot more elevated, and the design aesthetic is better. So plan B is probably a good thing that it happened. Like, it might be a lot better than plan A. So yeah, as far as the pattern, I kind of still went off the same pattern, but realistically at this point I think it's so modified that it's kind of unrecognisable as that pattern. But from what I did yesterday, where I elongated it, I basically cut it down a little bit where it was too big at the waist, and I cut a little bit of the fullness out, but not a lot. I elongated it a little bit more because actually the skirt I was doing yesterday was a bit shorter than I'd have hoped for. And then, so the back panel is basically the same. And then for the front panels, I worked out on the back panel where I wanted the crossover to come to, and then folded it, so then I've used that to cut the front panels out. I'll show you the pattern later, I'll bring it up and show you where we're at. But yeah, so we've got the pattern pieces cut, we've got them overlocked. I'm going to start sewing them together, but I just wanted to update you all on what we're thinking, where we're going. This will now be a two-part series, but I think I was being a bit optimistic, thinking I'd get both the top and the skirt done in one weekend anyway. So we'll see what we get done today, and then we'll carry it over next week. So this is the pattern piece that I have used. As I say, it was kind of based off the original for the satin skirt, but you can see it's got a massive infill here, then I've added a bit more length down here. Instead of cutting it on the fold, I've produced the second side of it to make it easier. And then for the wraparound, I decided sort of on me where I wanted the buttons to be placed. And I marked it at the top, if you can see. It's that little mark there. And basically just folded a straight line down the pattern piece down here, and then cut 2 of those. So they should fit on either side, cross over at the front, and hopefully that will work. I've not done any sort of like pattern drawing or drafting before, so we're a little bit iffy, but in my mind it should work, but we'll see. Okay, so this is the first look at what it's going to fit like, and I think we can make it work. So I think I'm going to unpick these side seams and do them to a smaller seam allowance, just to allow as much crossover as I can. But it's going to cross over and button down the front. I've pinned it for now. The buttons will have to go fairly low to make sure I'm still modest, especially if I'm dancing in it. But it gives a nice little leg split, which is always nice and flattering, and it moves nicely. It fits beautifully at the top. I'll spin around for you so you can see. So yeah, much happier with this. It's not pulling or tugging at the sides. I've not stretched it. I think I'll be absolutely fine unpicking this and redoing it. I don't think I'll have any issues. I also sewed it on a slightly longer stitch, which will make the unpicking easier and also helps with the not stretching it. But yeah, feeling much happier, much more positive, and we'll see how we go. I thought I'd check in with you again. So what I've been doing is I have unpicked the 2 seams that I'd done and just decreased that seam allowance, so it's probably just under 1 centimetre seam allowance on each side now, which should give a little bit more wiggle room when it comes to fitting it. The other thing that I've done is I have attached the lining fabric down the same 2 seams with the same seam allowance. So next we have the outside of the skirt and the lining fabric, and what I'm going to do is right sides together. I'm going to stitch along the top, which is the waistband seam, and then that will basically, the lining will be on the inside, nicely attached at the top. I'll probably top stitch it as well once I'm happy with it, and so that's how they're going to attach. I'm currently thinking I'll also attach the lining and the outside down the front seams, so the ones that like cross over at the front. I did consider fully attaching the lining and like bagging it out method, but I think that a loose lining would actually make the garment sit better, because generally a lining stops the actual fabric from like statically sticking to your legs and such. So by leaving it loose at the bottom and hemming them separately, hopefully we'll still get that. Whereas if it was fully attached, I just don't think it would flow as nicely. So that's the plan. Keeping it nice and simple, I'll do the waistline and then have a look at the fit again. Okay, so with that lining fabric added, it makes such a difference to the feel, the weight, the flow. Definitely the right idea to add the lining fabric. I'm umming and ahhing about attaching it down the front, although I think I will. I don't think it'll make too much of a difference. You might be able to tell that currently we have it slightly out of line at the top. That's naturally where I wanted to sit, but we're struggling because I've only attached the lining sort of like on one seam where it needs top stitching and strengthening. So that might come back up in line, but currently it was like pulling a little bit. But I don't mind even if it does sit like that. I think it's quite a nice design feature anyway. So yeah, this is how we're looking. I'm going to attach it, I will attach it down the front, and then I will probably have a look at top stitching around here, and then we'll have another look at how it's looking. Hey guys, the lighting's going, so although it's only like 3 o'clock, I think this will be the last clip that I'll do today. But the skirt's doing much better. So what I have done is I have top stitched around the top of the waistband. I have attached the lining to the outer and top stitched down that. I need to have a little think about it because the lining's actually sitting like outside of the main fabric a little bit, so I need to have a look at how that would sit better, and I might change that, but I'll have a think about it over the next week. But yeah, this is how it's fitting. It's fitting really, really nicely. I've just got it pinned down where the buttons will be to a nice decent level, but I like the little leg split. The fit down the sides and the back is doing much better than it was yesterday. So yeah, I think this is going to be a winner. Definitely got a lot more hope for this skirt than I did yesterday. What we still got to do is we've still got to hem it and pop the buttons and buttonholes on, and as I say, I'm going to have a think about this lining and whether it would be better separate from the front fabric or not. It's the fact that it crosses over with buttons and the buttonholes which was making me think it would be better together, but maybe we'll have a think about it and we'll see what we think when we start sewing on it again. But yes, this will be the end of this video, and I'll carry it on next weekend, probably start on Friday with finishing the skirt off, and then look at making the top on Saturday and Sunday. So I hope you've enjoyed. I'm sorry it's been a little bit hectic and chaotic with things working, things not working, change of plans, but not everything goes to plan. I think we'll all have had sewing projects that definitely didn't go to plan. So yeah, I just wanted to be real and honest and show the honest representation of how this has gone, rather than just cutting that bit out and showing purely the good sewing. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.